problem that affects virtually every stove sold in America, and it's a problem that sent countless children to the hospital. Matt Mahar reports on a safety hazard that exists in many U.S. kitchens that too few people have ever heard about. Here's today's headline story.
A mother in Los Angeles stands vigil as her son, 2-year-old Edwin Campos, fights for his life. The boy has severe burns over almost 60% of his body. That was the harrowing 911 call made 3 weeks ago by a babysitter after the toddler and 2 of his young cousins tipped over a kitchen stove and were doused with a huge pot of scalding water. Edwin's doctor is Peter Grossman.
In the best case scenario, this young boy will have years of reconstructive surgery.
But what may sound like a freak accident is actually just the latest in a long string of tragedies involving kitchen stoves tipping over onto small children. This 5-year-old Texas girl lost her arm to severe burns after she was pinned beneath a tipped stove. This toddler received third-degree burns on her upper body after tipping over her family's stove in Panama City, Florida. And this 2-year-old from Dallas, Texas was treated for burns over his entire body following a stove tip over.
This is not right. This is simply not right.
The problem, according to safety experts like Roger Beaujolais, a former space shuttle engineer, is that for more than 30 years, manufacturers have failed to fix an obvious danger in stove design. It's a design flaw that affects almost every stove sold in the United States.
This looks solid, it looks heavy. The average parent would have no idea that this could be a potential hazard, would they?
The visual that you get is that this thing is stable.
But watch how easily this large appliance tips over when the oven door is open.
Watch, I'm barely putting weight on there.
Experts say young children will sometimes use the oven door as a step, causing it to tip over. Kids can get crushed or severely burned by hot food falling off the range. While there are no statistics kept on how many kids are hurt each year by tipping stoves, the home appliance industry has acknowledged this problem for years and actively promotes the use of these simple brackets as a solution. Manufacturers say if the brackets are installed correctly, they will fasten a stove to your kitchen wall or floor and avert disaster.
This is a very bad injury.
But attorney Dan Ciano, who has worked on more than 100 lawsuits involving stove tip-overs, says that fix may sound great on paper, but in the real world, it's just not working.
We now know within the industry that most of the time it is not being used. That's the reality.
Ciano has obtained internal industry documents that he says show major manufacturers are well aware the safety bracket solution is not working. This email from 1996 shows one major stove company estimating less than 10% of their stoves were being properly installed with safety brackets. For another major oven manufacturer, that estimate was less than 5%.
Hi, gang.
To get an idea of how common this hazard still is, we arranged to spot check some new homes in Mesquite, Nevada. This family's stove had a safety bracket, and it wasn't budging.
You win!
The stove in this home also had an anti-tip bracket, but it was improperly installed.
Here's a case where the bracket's back there, but because it was installed improperly, it's worthless.
That's exactly why it's not a solution.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. I mean, I have 2 other children too, and I didn't know anything about that.
Can we look at your stove?
You sure can. Come on in.
But 2 of the 4 homes we visited had no safety bracket at all.
Well, that's not good.
That's why Roger Beaujolais says it's unfair and dangerous to leave it up to the consumers to make sure safety brackets are being used. Especially since many engineers believe the tip-over effect can be eliminated completely by simply redesigning the stoves.
It's a no-brainer.
Beaujolais told us about one solution that's been discussed for years within the industry, a breakaway door. When too much weight is applied, the oven door would fall safely to the ground instead of pulling over the whole appliance.
We wanted to sit down with the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers, the trade group that represents the industry, to discuss these issues. But they declined our repeated request for an on-camera interview. Instead, they sent us written responses which say manufacturers adhere to all safety and stability requirements set by U.S. safety organizations, and that the anti-tip devices currently being used by manufacturers have been found to be effective when they are properly installed,
and that manufacturers provide the safety device several specific warnings and instructions about its importance, but it is up to the installer and consumer to act. But Attorney Dan Ciano says that the continuing tragedies are proof the industry's solution is just not working.
I see children get injured over and over and over and over, and there's just simply no reason for this anymore. It needs to be stopped, period.
The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission tells us they are now investigating whether anti-tip brackets are being successfully installed. Still, experts agree that for now, that is the surest way to protect children. But since some stoves have gas lines, the experts also say you should have a qualified repairman check to make sure the brackets are properly installed.